keeping an eye on Irma, obviously, yes. Dani.
Yes, all eyes on Irma as we start our Tuesday and as we start each day for the next few. As we head through the weekend, that's when us here, especially in Southwest Florida, will be watching closely in terms of potential impact. I think it's important to start with the fact that we still don't have many answers. We're not saying that this is a sure thing, a sure direct impact to Southwest Florida. All we're trying to do is make sure that you at home are prepared in the case we do see a severe threat from Irma, but there is still plenty of time for the forecast track to change, and of course we'll bring you all those changes here on Fox 4. As for this morning, your Tuesday, starting with a strong, healthy Category 4 hurricane. Wind speeds right now at 150 miles per hour as the outer bands are already impacting the northern Leeward Islands. We do have hurricane warnings in place as far west as about Puerto Rico as we start our morning, and those hurricane warnings will continue to be issued as the track continues to track west and northwest. So right now moving west, but we do expect a little northerly shift as we head into the next day or two. So Wednesday 2 a.m. still 150 mile per hour winds. It does look like it'll weaken slightly, but there's just not a lot to weaken Irma in general as it continues to track through the Caribbean. So it'll stay a very strong and very dangerous storm as it does head toward just north of Hispaniola, just north of Cuba. And then what, right? That's the big question. Impacts to Southwest Florida. I will tell you, have to be honest, the threat to Southwest Florida is increasing, but we still don't have all the answers. It's not time to panic because there is still a lot that can change between now and Sunday, Monday when potential threats would arrive to Southwest Florida. As the track stands, it does look like the official track from the National Hurricane Center takes it just north of Cuba. It's good for Cuba, of course, but bad for Florida. Typically, it's our last line of defense. Cuba is such a mountainous island, mountainous terrain that it helps to rip apart these hurricanes. At this point, still looks like a Category 4 as it tracks just south of the Florida Peninsula. But then what? That's the big question, right? And that's the question we're trying to answer for you because that will dictate the severity of the impacts to Southwest Florida. As far as your spaghetti plots here, forecast models here, tightly clustered just north of Hispaniola, tightly clustered just north of Cuba. That's why we think that this more than likely will stay north of Cuba and not weaken significantly. But it's that northerly turn that all models still take. It's just when. When is the big question. We're still just a little too far out to tell you for sure, although models are working at it. Right now, it looks like most of those forecast models, at least here, have it moving up the Florida Peninsula. But again, still plenty of time for this to change. And this far out, we're talking a couple hundred miles in terms of east or west, and that would make the difference for Southwest Florida. So time to prepare, not time to panic yet, still plenty of time for this to change. The European model, typically the most dependable model at this point, the latest runs are changing, and again, a couple hundred miles when we're talking about the Florida Peninsula makes a huge difference in terms of severity of impact. Right now, it looks like it moves right up the center of the peninsula. Switching it over to the GFS, which is the American model. Looks about the same. This one just updated, so it's a little glitchy, but I wanted to give you the latest run of this. Right now, the GFS now shifting a little further east, but again, this is not a sure thing. I'm telling you, a couple hundred miles really makes a difference in terms of severity of impact. This is a little closer to what we saw with Matthew, which here in Southwest Florida wasn't all that severe. Some of our inland spots, but not necessarily our coastal communities. The GFS, of course, that's encouraging for us, but one run of one model never gives us the answer, and this is why. This is the GFS ensemble, which means the GFS model run multiple times with just one or two factors changed, and that gives us all the spread. A couple of those stay off the East Coast, not impacting Florida, a few of them right over the state, a few of them even in the Gulf. So we still have a lot of questions here. We still have a lot of questions to answer, and it's all going to depend on the steering currents. And what are those? It's an upper level trough, and it's an area of high pressure. As this upper level trough dips down, so a dip in the jet stream here, it's going to act as a steering current. This is going to push that high pressure back a little bit, and then as the trough then once again lifts north, it'll allow that high pressure to push back in, to build back in, and that's what's going to push Irma a little further west. If we can get that trough to stick around a little longer, the high pressure won't be able to push back in, and it'll keep Irma moving a little further east, because Irma is just trying to get around this area of high pressure. So those are the questions that will get answered in the next couple of days. That's going to dictate exactly where we see the greatest impacts, but this is the bottom line. This is what I want you to take away. Number one, the threat is increasing for Southwest Florida. Unfortunately, that's the case, but the severity of impacts is still unclear. So all you need to know, it is time to prepare, not time to panic, but it is time to prepare. And over the next few days, we'll get the questions answered in terms of what kind of impact we're expecting in terms of where that turn north takes. Doppler radar.